Hey, welcome to the Ordinary Black Professionals. I'm Nicole,
And I'm Stefan.
and this week we're talking about whether we would move to Barbados, and we're also answering some of your listener letters. But before we do that, we're going to talk about the Instagram survey that we did around whether you would ask someone how much they earn or not.
Yeah,
And the results are interesting.
yeah, very interesting. This was all based on our last episode, which we titled "Would you ask someone how much they earn?" And we put that same question out on Instagram, and we got some interesting responses. The question to "Would you ask someone how much they earn?" 31% of people said yes, they would, and 69% said no, which I thought was an interesting result to that poll.
Interesting, but I wasn't surprised.
I wasn't
Because
surprised
I feel
either.
like most people, if I think of all the people, the number of people who have asked me how much I earn,
Yeah,
that's obviously a very small amount compared to all the people that I know.
yeah, yeah.
So most people don't feel to ask that question.
Mm, And then we had a second question. Would you tell people how much you earn? I think this was interesting as well because we got a 50-50 response to this.
Yeah,
50%
right down the
yes and
middle.
50% no, right down the middle. Um, which was interesting because the same people who responded no or yes to the previous question, saying, would you ask somebody else, were some of them swayed the other way when it came to giving out their own information.
Yeah,
They were more happy to
because
give information, but
it's
they weren't
easier.
happy to ask
Yeah,
for the same information.
it's because it's easier to give out information. Like it's easier for you to just say how much you earn
Mm,
than to actually ask somebody else, because then it feels like you're asking somebody else a really personal question, but you're happy to give out your personal information.
right.
What I found interesting was we asked people, whether you vote, like, why did you vote the way that you voted? And people, for the would you tell someone how much you earn, that 50-50 split, the responses people gave for giving their answer was, I don't mind sharing depending on why slash who is asking.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, so they're more happy to share, but maybe if the person who's asking you was like your friend or something like that, then yeah, why not?
and one
I
of the
guess.
responses for not wanting to ask how much somebody else earned was, as a general rule, it's none of my business. Which I think is what
It's like
most
fair enough.
people, yeah, fair enough. I think that's what most people think, isn't it? It's not really my business.
It's like
So,
it's like you're delving into their personal business. Like, how
yeah,
much do you earn?
yeah.
Yeah.
But I know I stand by the importance of having to have those conversations and asking people those things,
Hmm.
um,
Well,
to make sure that you're not getting screwed, basically.
somebody else responded said, if you don't ask, you don't get, and you risk on not being paid fairly if you don't ask that question.
I agree.
So I'm assuming this person probably said, yes, they would ask somebody how much they
Yeah,
get paid. But yeah, two different responses there, but very interesting poll results on our last podcast
yeah.
episode. And if you want to listen to that, just go back and listen to our previous episode where we have a discussion on this topic.
Yeah, much more kind of in-depth discussion. And if you would like to, join in at any of the other polls that we have, don't forget to follow us at Ordinary Black Professionals. So let's just dive into the meat of our podcast episode.
Mm,
So I don't know whether our listeners are aware, but at the moment there is a 12-month visa that Barbados is offering people,
mm.
where if you apply, you are able to live and work in Barbados.
It's specifically for people who can work remotely
Hmm.
and who sort of work for companies uh, who are foreign companies to Barbados.
Okay, so it
Um,
can't be a Bayesian company,
no, it can't be a Belgian company. So maybe an American company or UK company or
whatever it is.
anywhere,
Yeah.
right, other than Barbados, and you can work remotely, and they will give you a visa to go and live there for 12 months. And this all came out of the
COVID.
COVID, yeah,
Because Barbados
the
is
pandemic.
known for, I don't know if anyone knows,
It's
but it's a
tourism.
very tourist, yeah, it's like a very tourist heavy island. And they wanted to make sure that with COVID, um, and all the restrictions that comes with it, that they're still able to kind of get money from foreigners essentially. So they
Mm.
decided to come up with this visa.
Which I think is a really good idea.
I agree, because
But it
who
got a
wouldn't
lot of
want to
people
work
thinking.
and live in Barbados?
Yeah.
So how much does it cost? How easy is it to apply? Can anyone apply, or is it?
I I've taken a look at the website, Barbados website, and it seems anybody can apply as long as you meet the requirement of you can work remotely
Okay.
for a foreign company, and and there's a fee to pay. And apart from that, you just have to make sure you've got your passport and all that other stuff, and you could be eligible for a visa.
How much is the fee?
The fee for an individual is 2,000 US dollars,
Okay.
and you can also work there and bring your family with you. And if you want a family visa, it's 3,000 US dollars.
Okay, so in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much money. It's affordable.
It's
It's
affordable.
not 10 grand or anything like that.
Yeah, it's affordable. It's quite expensive for a visa, but you are there for a year minimum, possibly, and you could apply to extend it into the following year. I don't know how long this visa will be around for, but it is possible to extend it.
Okay. So the question is that something we would do?
Well, it's funny because I saw this come up recently on Channel 4 in the UK, and they have a program called Escape to Barbados, which caught my attention, right? And on that program, there was a couple families and individuals that had traveled to Barbados on this visa,
Yeah.
and they showed their experience of doing it. And it really got me thinking because I did notice this visa came out in about March, something like that. I noticed it when it was announced, right?
Mm.
It made the news, but I kind of ruled it out. I thought, but now seeing these people on TV, I'm like, what was I thinking?
And if anyone hasn't watched the show, I'd
Yeah,
highly recommend you watch it on catch up because
yeah.
they were selling it.
You can find it on 4OD. Yeah.
Yeah. They were selling moving over to Barbados
Mm,
big time.
mm.
Um,
There was some very good benefits
and there
there.
were some very good benefits. Warm weather being one,
I mean,
being able to swim in the ocean. But what I found quite interesting is, well, they didn't really talk about it in that much detail, but I don't think any of the people who have decided to move over to Barbados had ever been before.
yeah, I didn't get that feeling that they knew Barbados or they
No,
had any idea what it's like over there.
no. So I guess going back to my question, would you do it? Or would
Well,
we do it, should I say? Because
yeah. Um, I feel like the answer is yes. I would.
really?
Yeah, yeah. Why not?
Okay, I wasn't expecting you to say that.
Yeah. And I felt like maybe earlier I would have said no, but after spending a whole year in this COVID pandemic, I would have been better off in Barbados. But we've been through how many lockdowns and restrictions, and now we're getting cold weather and we're in lockdown and we're burning off our um, gas and electric and that sort of thing for heating. So
Yeah,
we might have been better off in Barbados,
but what
man.
would we have done with the house? See, this is so for the listeners out there, we bought our house, so it makes things a little bit more complicated because we're more rooted. We've got an asset here, so it
Yeah.
makes things a little bit more difficult when you want to make those big decisions, whether to
Well,
move
I'm
country.
sure someone would say to you, just rent it out
Yeah, I guess that's true. Because you know, for the things that you want to do, you'll make it work.
or Airbnb it or something like that.
Yeah,
I'm sure
that's
someone
true.
will say, oh, you can just do something like that. But
That feels like such a
it is
big
our
step.
home,
That's the thing. It's
and
our
to rent it
home.
out, it's a bit, But
Yeah,
I
we
guess for a year in Barbados, that would be your home, and you would have to sort of let this go and maybe hopefully
mm,
come back to it in a good state.
I don't know. For those people out there, so I'm half Bajan and half Jamaican. So one of my parents is from Barbados, and growing up, I used to go to Barbados like every other year. And the last time I went was last year, January time. So I'm very, very familiar with the island and the culture and how to get around and all of that stuff. So but I still don't know if I'd want to live there.
Why? Since you know
There's no Amazon.
Barbados.
I don't even know how you'd get Netflix.
I
And the
mean, Netflix is
cult.
on the internet. You probably get US Netflix over there.
You get US Netflix.
Probably. If they don't have like their own region, they'll probably just come under the US region
Mm, yeah. It's just a
or
very
South American
different
region or something.
culture. And the pace of getting things done is much slower as well. So
Mm,
don't get me wrong, Barbados is a beautiful island. I absolutely love going there. And I don't consider it to be like going on holiday. I consider it to be going back home because I've gone there so often, so many times. But the pace on getting things done, sorting out, your driving license over there, or open up a bank account or something like your finances, it's a much, much slower pace. And so you have to be used to that. And also, over there they start work a lot earlier, so people get up a lot earlier and they finish work earlier. They eat, you don't have a, I'm not saying this is the be all end all, but there's no such thing as like fast food over there, like a McDonald's or anything like that. I mean, they have a KFC, but there's no McDonald's at all. Their fast food is having a roti.
the fast food's having a roti.
Yeah, and they have a chefette.
How fast can I get a roti?
Very fast. So roti would be
That'll take ages to get a roti
like how do
in
you just
Brixton
roti is just like meat in a,
in a wrap.
yeah, roti is kind of in a wrap, but the wrap is filled with, is really nice, like it's
Mm.
flavored and stuff. But yeah, so they anyway, so yeah, they have chauffette, which is like a drive-through. So you can get roti really quickly, but this everything is just so different, and things are expensive over there as well. Fish is expensive. Anything that's imported in is going to be really pricey. Ice
Yeah,
cream
you
is
know
super
what?
expensive.
On that
Ice
TV
cream
show,
over in the,
they said that they import 80% of their food,
yeah,
which I was like, whoa, 80%. So
it's a
the
lot.
prices of stuff was very high,
Yeah, and
and
it
they
is
and they
high in the
imported from the US.
supermarket.
Yeah.
To get ice cream over there, like a tub of ice cream, not even a big tub, not like
Mm.
a Wallace. Was it Wallace or Walls?
Wars.
Walls ice cream. It's like £12. That's no exaggeration. It's like a luxury to have ice cream. So
£12.
yeah, for a tub of ice cream.
But it must cost them a lot to import it. Yeah, they have to keep it cold the whole way.
I guess so. And
Fine.
also, Bayesian people don't eat that stuff either. So like some of the
They don't eat ice
foods.
cream?
No, well, not necessarily ice cream, but some of the foods that's imported is either a treat for the Bayesians or they're catering for tourists.
Really?
Yeah.
So what do they eat? If they import 80% of their food,
I'm not,
what's
no, I'm
the
not saying that.
ah,
I'm saying that some of the food that's imported, like a
okay,
box of like Quality Street, for example.
right,
Quality Street over there is again super expensive, like £10 or something.
right.
But the base people, they're not spending £10 on Quality Street. They're either gonna get people who are from the UK to come over and bring over like some Quality Street, or they're catering for the British people who now live over in Barbados who want a box of Quality Street just because
Yeah,
they want to have that as a treat.
yeah.
So I don't know, it's just all of that stuff mixed with the culture. I don't know whether I could be there full time.
Hmm. But can't you? What about the benefits though? Hmm?
Yeah, I mean, there's loads and loads of
I mean,
benefits.
these guys on this TV show, they were living. I think all of them were living close to the beach. But you
Yeah,
say everywhere in Barbados is close to a beach
yeah,
anyway, right?
because it's such a
But
small island
I mean, one family was literally on the
on the
beach.
beach.
Like their back gate
The beach.
was the gate to the beach.
Yeah. If I was going to move over, that's how I'd want it to be. But then that being said, if I was to move over, I'm sure I'd probably be encouraged to be close to my grandparents.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd want to be like open up my back door and walk straight into the beach.
Hmm. I mean, made it look really attractive. I mean, there was a family, right? Like, was it two or three kids and
Yeah, I
parents?
think it's 3 kids.
And yeah, back there, the kids just run straight out of the back garden, straight onto the beach, into the sea, and it was like paradise. Hot weather, amazing,
Yeah,
amazing. And there's another guy who, in the morning gets up early, and before he logs on for work, he just goes for a run on the beach
yeah,
and goes for a swim. And he said just his mental health. Can you imagine how
good that would
freeing
be.
and relaxing that would be? Just in the morning, just getting up and going for a run and a swim and You know,
From I
that
agree.
fresh air in your
Yeah, it's the
lungs.
fresh air,
Yeah, that
and
air.
yeah, and like now it's getting dark so early. Imagine just having all that sunlight, having all that
The
vitamin D,
sunlight.
having all
Oh,
that vitamin D just hit you.
you know, we black people,
Going back,
we
going
need
back
that
to our
vitamin
true
D.
color,
Yeah.
our
Trust
true
me.
dark skin selves. Get too pale out here when it's
Trust me. When
the
it's
winter.
winter, we can't handle it. You start cracking. You've got to keep layering up on that
In
Vaseline
it.
on your lip.
Keep them moisturized. That's another thing. When you're in those hot countries, like when I'm in Barbados, I hardly ever even cream.
God, no, 'cause you're sweating all the
You're
time,
just
innit?
sweating, and you don't need it. You don't need it. Like right now, I'll cream with coconut oil
Mm,
everywhere.
mm.
Over in Barbados, I don't need to put coconut. Like I'll put a little bit of cream on, but it's not as heavy as what I use
No, I
here.
definitely put much lighter layer because otherwise I will sweat it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, it will start like dripping off me.
Mm.
Whenever I go to a hot country, it's like that. There was also a mention that over in Barbados they have very good internet, which is good because the guys are on the TV show are working remotely. Because that's what
Yeah.
I worry about, right? I need to work remotely. I work in IT. I need to be doing video calls and that sort of thing with my team members and customers and that sort of thing. So need to have really good internet, and they seem to have it. They got 4G,
So why?
all that
So
stuff.
so why did we never do it then?
Why did we not do it?
Because it's easier said than done,
It's
isn't it? To
easier said
pack
than
up your
done.
whole life and move over there. And even if work gave us the go ahead to do it, maybe that was a possibility. Maybe work would have allowed us to do it because we've
Mm,
got American offices where we work, so we could have been on the American time zone. But at the end of the day, we're still packing up with your entire life and moving away from family and friends. There was an argument to say that, well, how often have you really seen family and friends this year?
exactly.
Because it really has not been often at all. But it's still packing up and moving. The good thing is though with Barbados is they are letting in people from the UK to fly in. Like they haven't locked off their borders.
Oh, really?
Mm. But when you get over there, you have
I
to
think it's quarantine,
quarantine.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Like,
you have to quarantine in like a government, um, a special government either building or hotel
right.
for 14 days, and they test you in those 14 days to see whether you can go out into the wider
Mm,
like, world.
yeah. One thing I did notice though is that with this TV show, it gave us a little glimpse of kind of what it could be like if you did choose to go there,
Mm.
and these guys were facing the type of problems that you would see. And one of those is that you would have gone there and you don't have any friends over there. If you don't
Yeah.
have any friends, I mean, you know, my friends are here where I grew up.
But then I feel like,
So
but people, there's some
there's
people
some
out
people, yeah,
there
they can
who always
mingle
have
with
friends.
anybody.
Yeah, like they can go into any environment and they're either just so likable
Mm,
or they're just really good at just putting themselves out there. I feel like you have to just put yourself out there to make friends.
yeah.
I don't know where you would go,
Mm.
like other than the obvious gym, church. Yeah, that's the only ones I can think
Well,
of. Gym and
bars and
church,
clubs.
bars. Yeah,
Yeah.
then
Don't know where else, but you would have to really be an outgoing person, I think,
yeah.
to do that. And I feel like maybe one of the people on the TV show wasn't that outgoing in order to go out there and meet random people
Yeah, because there was a couple
and
that
make
went
new
over.
relationships.
Yeah,
Yeah.
'cause there was a couple that went over, and the woman said, "Oh, it's gonna be hard for me to make friends, blah blah. It's just gonna be me and my husband," and the husband was working. But in a way, that's kind of how it is now. Like, look at me and you. It's just us two at home every day.
Mm.
And during the last lockdown, we stuck to the rules. We didn't go out and see people that we did what we were told to do. So it's kind of that same, if you go over to Barbados, it could potentially be that same thing for a few months where you're just at home with your partner.
You think so? Did they have lockdown over there?
They did, yeah, and yeah, they did have lockdown.
When was it?
In when we had our first
Around
lockdown,
that
they had
time.
theirs, yeah. And in actual fact, what they did, because remember the island, it's an island and
Yeah.
the populate, there's not many people who live there. They you could only shop on particular days,
Mm.
like go do a food shop on particular days, and the way they decide that is your surname. So it's
Your
like
surname.
everyone who has their surname from A to G is on Monday, let's say, and then G to I don't know N is on Tuesday, and that's how they did it.
Right.
And then they say they divided it up that way, and then they said if you're over 60, then you can go on a Friday. So my grandparents over there could shop twice a week because they fell into the over
Right.
60s or over 70s category and then the surname as well.
Right.
So that's how they were able to kind of stagger it. And then they had a curfew as well.
And all that stuff is lifted now.
Yeah, I believe so.
Right.
So would we apply for the visa? Are we off to
Mm.
Barbados next January? Are we gonna put the application in?
If you're putting that pressure on,
I'm not putting any pressure on.
that is pressure.
No, I'm just
That's
saying.
like oh, we applying then. Hmm.
The listeners want to know.
You know what? I said yes, I would do it, but to actually go and do it is a different. It's like a different question. It's like a different pressure. Um, I don't know. It's a big decision. I feel like. I think like a lot of those people, they left their friends and family,
Yeah.
and I think in some of their cases, their friends and family weren't happy about it. Like,
For
but
for me, it's a no.
it's a no.
It's a no
Why?
because I don't want to.
Why not?
I don't want to leave my friends and family and all that other stuff. I don't want to have. I also don't want to have that awkward conversation with work. Do you know what I mean? It's just like
Yeah,
I just don't want to do it.
that's true. I mean, obviously, at
Have a
work,
conversation to be like, oh, can I actually move to Barbados? Because
you'd have to agree that you now work with the US team,
mm,
and I'd have to do the same.
yeah, that affects the project that I'm on at the moment because I'm working with people primarily in the UK. So how will that work? Now I'm working on the American time zone, and then um, what do we do with the house?
Yeah, I mean,
So
that's what I'm saying.
it's like stress. That's what I view it as.
Mm,
It's like extra stuff to think about unnecessarily, and maybe it could lead to a better quality of life. But
so you might have to go through that stress in order to get to that peace.
yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm good. I think I'm good just to do a 2 week, trip to Barbados sometime next year than a 12-month live in Barbados. And the thing is, you have never even been, so you'd
No,
be signing up to something that you don't even know nothing about.
yeah, but I've been to Caribbean islands before.
I
Maybe it's
know.
slightly similar, I would hope.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like for you, it'd be a proper like big step into the unknown.
Mm. You know,
The upside is that we like, there are people that we know, or that at least I know over there. So it's not, we would never be totally alone.
mm,
So now we're going to move over to our listener letters. So as we do every week, we ask you to write into us with your dilemmas, and we have a few to share with you right now. So I'll just dive into the first one, and the writer has asked that we make them anonymous. So the question is, I want to ask my colleague how much she earns, but I don't know how to ask them. Any ideas you'd recommend?
that's a good one. Since we did talk about it last week.
Yeah.
Um, wait, do you want to start?
Yeah. I'll start to give you some
Yeah,
thinking time. So I would kind of suggest two things. The first one being just to ask her directly
just
how
being
much
straight
she
up.
earns. Just be straight up,
So what? I'm just gonna walk up to you and be like, "How much do you earn?"
pretty much. I mean, not just in the middle of the office, but let's say if you were in the office. I'm assuming this is someone that you have you speak to semi regularly. If you have a one-to-one meeting with them, if you're having lunch, just be like, oh, I would just love to know if you feel comfortable how much you earn. I earn X.
So you just blurt yours out and hope they give that back, right? If you
Yeah.
just blurt it
Well,
out.
I know somebody who, they just messaged directly and said, "This is how much I earn," just out of the blue.
What?
Mm,
They just messaged them.
mm.
Would is there any context to that message?
I don't think so.
Just so what's that supposed to mean? If I receive that message, I'll say okay. w-
Yeah, no, but they did. Oh, I earn X. How much do you earn?
Whoa.
So you can. Oh, I'm just giving ideas out here. Okay.
Okay.
So
I
you
mean,
can just go direct.
yeah.
Okay. This is not something that I've done before, but it's an option. Or you can kind of, get in the conversation around salaries. Talk about, oh, it's pay review coming up, or oh, have you seen how much so and so is getting paid, or oh, so and so's left their job for more money. Somehow, bring slip in salary into the conversation. And as you guys are talking more and more about pay, you can then kind of say, oh well, oh, I earn this much. How much do you earn?
Well,
You can bring it into the conversation, and you sometimes you can be surprised that when you start talking about salary, how open people can be. This year, I've had people tell me their salary, and I've not even asked. They've just told me, and we've been, organically talking
and did
about
you tell you
salary.
and you did you tell yours back?
No, not always.
This is I don't get it. Why are they telling you
So
just random out of the blue?
because we're just having a conversation about salary, and they may,
Oh,
one
right.
particular guy, we were talking about salary, and he goes, "Oh, I don't mind telling you how much I earn. I earn X." And I was
Okay.
like, "Oh, okay."
Okay, okay.
And then another time was at a party where the person I was speaking to had a bit too much to drink, and they told me how much they earn.
Okay.
I didn't ask.
Okay.
I wasn't. I didn't even. That wasn't on my mind. That person's salary. I didn't
Well,
even think
I
about it.
I think this person saying that um they want to ask their colleague, right? So I'm
There's obviously a
assuming
reason behind that.
no, I'm assuming that they work in a similar type of area. And so what I would probably do is bring a bit of context to the question. I would be like, I'm trying to understand whether I'm paid, fairly or in the same bracket as my colleagues here. And I'd like to maybe just share my salary and my bracket, and maybe you can give me an idea of whether you're in the same bracket or what salary that you're
Yeah,
on. Maybe
because
just being sort
if
of straight up
just be straight up with
like
people,
that.
and
But
they will.
that will give a little bit of context to say, look, I'm trying to find out so that I can understand a bit of context rather
Yeah,
than being nosy.
nosy.
Because if you just say, what's your salary? That's just nosiness. That's just like, why are you asking me that for?
Okay, yeah, that's true.
Right?
That's true. To be honest with you, the most of the times when I've had a conversation with people about salary, it's not because it's not nosiness. It's more of there's a reason that I want to know, and it's because I'm going up for my pay review or something like that.
Hmm.
So yeah, if you're upfront and candid with the person and just say exactly what you said, Steph, I'm looking to my pay reviews, want to see if I'm being fairly paid, whatever it may be, and speak to your colleague about that. I'd probably say it's better if, to make sure you have a decent enough-ish relationship with that person. I'm not going to walk up to somebody that I speak to once a year and ask them what their salary is.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to do that. So I would suggest that if you don't already, build up a relationship with that colleague first before you ask them. And probably, yeah, don't do what I said as to being really direct, kind of try to bring it into the conversation.
Yeah. Okay, so that's my advice. I would say give a bit of context and go in softly with the question.
Yeah, going softly. I hope that helps.
Yeah.
Message us back and let us know how you get on. So our second question is, I'm currently in a big organization and have been there for 5 years. I've had a great time there, but I feel like I should move on and try something new with more responsibilities. So my question is, how did you, Nicole, find your move to a smaller consultancy? And my second question is, should I move to a smaller consultancy which is predominantly white? So, that first bit of your question, how did I find the move to a smaller consultancy? I guess I'll pick that one up. I found the move for me personally to be really good. I moved to a consultancy that had, hundreds of thousands of people globally to where I'm at now that has, over just over 100 people. So a massive, massive change. As I said, that change has been really positive. I've got more responsibility. I like the fact that it is a relatively flat organization. I can contact the CEO if I want to and have a meeting with him, or any of the directors at all. And the more responsibility that I get at work, I like that, and it's been good for my career.
Yeah, I think this person said they want to move on and try something with more responsibilities, and a small consultancy could well give you that because you got so much work that needs to be done, and there's less people around, and so you could move on and move up the ladder a bit
Yeah,
quicker and that sort of thing.
but then ask me, how did I find the move?
How did you find the move? Go ahead.
So I think I liked all of that stuff,
Yeah.
but I found it quite daunting and scary because when you're in a big company, you can kind of hide. It's easy for you just to blend in, be a
Oh
bit like a
yeah.
chameleon.
It's very
You don't
yeah.
actually need to like be at the top of your game all the time because if you're in a on a project with a lot of people, if you're on a bench and there's like 100 people on the bench, you can kind of get away with it. But when you're in a small consultancy, especially one that's as small as mine, you only got, 120 odd people, whatever it is, there's no room to hide. You're in a company where everyone knows who each other is, everyone knows each other's names,
Mm.
everyone knows how you're performing. If you perform badly on a project, word will get round and people
Yeah,
will be aware
word can spread
quickly,
fast.
quickly. And and sometimes, well, I say a lot of the time, perception is more important than what you actually deliver and your quality of work.
I
So if
mean,
the perception
that's a
of
very
you
good
is that
point.
you're
I
poor,
think we should be talking about that maybe in another episode as well. But perception, it for me is probably more important than even the work that you're doing. The
yeah.
quality of your work and everything. Perception is probably the most important thing.
And perception's a thing that gets you pay rises and promotions
Yeah,
if people perceive that you're just the don,
yeah. Even when you're not.
even when you're not. Out here, out here, out here dropping gems,
Yeah.
even when you're not. So yeah, so I would say if you're going to move to a smaller consultancy, just be aware of the fact that it can feel, you don't have that buffer around you and you can be quite exposed, um, which can be quite shocking coming from a big company. And I'd also say be really prepared for the level of autonomy you're going to get. And I think you hear that a lot of the time. Oh, you move to a small company, you get loads of autonomy and all that other stuff. But you really, really do. So really get prepared to kind of um,
Mm.
step
You got to
into
pick
that
up
and
your
take it
own
on. Yeah.
work and you got to run with it.
Exactly. And you'll notice, what I noticed at least, when I moved to my company, the people, the graduates who were there or people who had been there for years and years, they were just so used to owning things, running things, speaking to senior people. It was just like nothing to them.
Mm.
So when I moved into where I am now, I always found it really weird that you could just walk over to the CEO and have a conversation with him.
Mm.
Or like the CEO would say how much he earns. Like the fact that it was just so transparent and that it was such a flat hierarchy, I always found really, really weird and really shocking. And so I would say if you're moving into a company like that, just be aware of just how different the culture can be, because it is quite a shock. And I know other people who have come from big companies like KPMG, Deloitte, EY, and they've gone to a much, much smaller company. It does feel like a shock to the system because it is just so open and it is just so transparent. Um, so yeah, that's
Yeah,
probably what
and
I would say there.
maybe one other thing as well is you have to be prepared for the type of work that you're going to do. Because in a big
Mm.
consultancy, they will have lots of projects and huge customers and clients. And so the option and the choice of work that you'll get is broad,
Yeah,
right?
that's
And
something that I
global
didn't
sometimes.
consider
Yeah.
actually when I moved, that I wouldn't be working with, the big, big companies, the FTSE 500 companies.
I mean, you can still work for the FTSE 500 companies, right? There's no doubt about that. These smaller consultancies will work with them. It's just they won't have as much quantity of work. And so the number of roles and options available to you of what you can do will be reduced, and
Yeah,
and
100%.
and you may find yourself doing the same thing again and again
Yeah.
sometimes because that's the
And
type of work they sell.
yeah, definitely. And you may find that you're unable to specialize in a certain industry 'cause it just doesn't have that kind of it doesn't have the diversity of projects or as many projects, you know. Like some consultancies they'll have an FS um kind of section and then like a telecommunications one or a energy and gas because they've got so many clients that they work with that sit under FS or so many clients that they work with that sit under energy and gas. And you may not find that that in those smaller companies they work with HSBC, Barclays, TSB, Nationwide. Like you don't have that full long list. It may just be one small kind of like fintech type company that you're working with.
Yeah.
And then the second part of the question, should I move to a smaller consultancy which is predominantly white?
In my opinion, if you're moving to a smaller consultancy, regardless, and this is based on me being in the UK and what I know of the UK, it's most likely going to be predominantly white anyway. Um, and if you're looking for um, that level of diversity, you're not going to get it in a small consultancy. You're going to have to look at the larger companies, the ones that are doing multi-million deals and that sort of thing. That's the place where you're most likely to find diversity. And even in those companies, you're not guaranteed to find diversity.
Yeah,
So
agree.
you kind of have to look at it not just from a predominantly white thing, but you have to, when you interview them, you got to really talk to the people and get a sense of what they're like, whether they are accepting people, people who accept people for their differences and what they're like, and whether they are the type of people who are maybe stuck in their ways a little bit or do a routine that is not inclusive or considers others and their differences.
Mm,
Um, yeah.
yeah, I
So
agree.
maybe, I mean, it's going to be predominantly white regardless, but um, consider the people for the
Who
way they
they
spoke
are.
to you in the
Yeah.
interview, right? So when you talk to them, try to talk to as many people as you can in the company and listen to listen carefully to the way they address you, the way they talk to you, the looks that you get and things like that. Because I've had many different interviews and I've had many different feelings walking out of different companies. And I can tell you, there's a good list of companies that um, whether I got the job or not, I wouldn't work there.
I no, I agree. I agree. And if that's a concern of yours, working somewhere that is predominantly white and potentially not being, feeling included or being treated equally, you know, don't feel trying to feel comfortable having that conversation with your future employer, not necessarily kind of saying, oh, I don't know if I want to be here, everyone's white, but just being like, okay, so what's your approach to diversity and inclusion, like what's your strategy on this, and listening and hearing what people say, um and whether it's a case of, are there any black or Asian, I don't know what background you are, but are there any people who is a similar background to you that you can talk to in the company and hear their perspective on how things are. Um, all of that I think will make a difference. And exactly what Stefan said, even if the company could be predominantly white but be extremely inclusive and be extremely kind of aware
Welcoming.
of and welcoming.
That's the word I
Yeah,
was looking for.
it's welcoming. Um, it's not necessarily that if the company is really super diverse that they're welcoming or they're going to give opportunities to you. So you want to be looking for other things than kind of having that racial diversity in the company. I mean, I 100% think that's important, but it's not the only thing that should make up your decision as to whether you go to that company or not. I mean, if I give you an example myself, when I was looking to leave my old company and I was doing interviews, for me, that was something that was really important, that I worked somewhere that was quite ethnically diverse. And I was interviewing at a company, and I was speaking to different people at that organization, and I actually asked a question to the guy I was speaking to, how, what's your, what is your, how does your leadership look like? Is it predominantly men, or do you have, women in leadership positions? And then do you have, women who come from an ethnic minority background and all stuff? And I asked that question really openly, and I looked to see how he responded to that question that asked. And because he was quite open and honest, and he didn't flinch or anything, he
Mm.
was quite receptive. That
Were you
told me
face
a
to
lot
face?
about, yeah, face to face.
And so
And
did
that
you
told me a
you was
lot
watching
about
his
him.
body language.
Yeah,
You pay attention to the body language. That's what I would say.
yeah,
Definitely pay
definitely.
attention. That told me everything I needed to know about certain
Yeah,
companies.
for sure. And he actually introduced me to somebody at the company who worked there who is black, a black woman, so we could have a conversation. I can hear about her experiences. So again, that openness to, wanting to to sh- to have that conversation showed me a lot about that company. And then I've interviewed at another company, for example, and I had about 5 rounds of interviews, and every single round I just got interviewed by men. And it wasn't just me and one other person. It'd be like my interviews were like me and two other men, or me and at one point three other men at different points interviewing me. And I said to the recruiter and to the company that was interviewing me, "Do you not have any women?" Because I've got five. This is I'm on my fourth round now, and I've only ever. So I've just finished my fourth round. I'm going on to my fifth, and I've only ever spoken to men in the organization.
Mm.
I was like, "Where's your women? Where's your senior women?" And then they rallied round to find me the senior woman.
The
And
one.
I actually spoke to three women.
Mm.
I spoke to one who was based not in the UK, in London, was based kind of north, I think north, um, in the north of England. Another woman, a young woman I spoke to kind of face to face, and then my final interview was like a female like director or something. And the woman was saying to me, "Oh, we do have women, blah blah blah. I know this is this is important for you. I just want to let you know that we do have women who are in consulting, and it's really hard to get uh female consultants in senior positions because the industry requires you to be mobile and move up and down the UK, and women tend to have kids, and that sometimes some women feel like they want to be close to where their children and their family are and all this other stuff. But I just find it really, really interesting that it was only because I said, "Where's the women?" that they then were able to find a three out of the woodworks.
Mm.
If I had never said that, I probably would never even have been interviewed by any woman. So it's all that stuff, like really just all of that stuff gives you a sense of what that company's like. And for me, it at that stage, it kind of told me everything that wasn't necessarily the company for me, because again, you weren't thinking about making sure that you have diversity through the interview stages. Like that says a lot to me.
Mm.
So it's like to take everything into consideration,
Yeah.
not just necessarily whether there's white people in the consultancy.
Yeah.
It's important, but there's so many other things when it comes to diversity and inclusion that is just as important,
Mm.
if not
And
more
maybe
so.
one tip as well. What I do sometimes is if I'm considering to go work for a company, I will check that company on LinkedIn. On that company, you can see a list of all the people who work there.
Yeah.
You can see the countries that they're from, so you can sort of have an idea of percentages of background countries that they're sort of from. And you can also see a list of like who is employed there, and you can see the pictures and just give a glimpse of, a run through of the type of pictures. And if you see the
Mm,
same kind of skin shade, then you kind of know what you're going to find
yeah.
when you go there, because you don't want to go there blind, in my opinion.
Yeah. I agree. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed those listener letters and our thoughts on whether we would move to Barbados or not. So yeah, I think we'll probably end it there.
Yes. So we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Bye.
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 If you have any questions or dilemmas, email us on ordinaryblackprofessionals@gmail.com, or we can be found on Instagram and Twitter at ordinaryblackprofessionals. Also, don't forget to follow us, subscribe, and leave a rating and comment.